Yeah.
Well, I could
Oh,
colors and lighting.
got it. If you spent much time looking for TikTok lives, no, I will never get that line right. If you spent as much time practicing your sword technique as you do finding your TikTok lives, you'd rival Master Yoda as a
TikToker.
social media expert.
I feel
Kind
like
of
it
like
should be Master Luke right now, because
Master Luke is owning TikTok, at
right.
least in the Star Wars creator community. I've never seen so much hype, including myself, like jumping up on the Mark Hamill bandwagon, saying, "Mark, look at me, Mark."
Please notice me,
And
senpai.
and I'm really for some reason today I thought of the Joker line in regards to Mark Kenobi, and you know, he's changed everything. What's that? I forget the Joker line, but it's like, you've changed everything. You can't go back to the way it was, because I
Yeah.
think
Where's my glove?
I don't know how to, because I think having Mark Hamill TikTok Mark Kenobi set like a bar, but it also shows that, like, oh my God, Mark Hamill duetted Mark Kenobi, but it was a second TikTok, and he duetted a Immortal. Like, Mark Hamill duetted Immortal, and it was crazy. It was crazy because for me, I was, I think I couldn't sleep that night, and around like 3 a.m. I was just surfing TikTok, and I saw the duet. This is really needs to stop. Please move. Duetted him, but I thought that was Mark's feed, Mark Kenobi's feed. I didn't think that was Mark Hamill, and
yeah,
I think I just scrolled away.
Daddy, my paints fell out of
Oh
my
no!
paint.
Are those your? Oh no! Is that your art set?
But Patty, you please need to go away.
Am I getting all the attention you want?
No, but I thought that was Mark Kenobi's feed that I was watching, and then when I realized it was Mark Hamill, I'm like, holy crap! Like, that was amazing, and super kudos to Mark, because he broke Kenobi, because again, he's mortal, and Hamill duetted him. It was his second at TikTok and his first duet forever. Like, Mark will have that honor. Like, right now, if you go to Mark Hamill's TikTok feed, you see Mark Kenobi there. I mean, that's all you see right now.
Right.
A year and a half from now, he'll be down there. But so again, hello there, Sken Layla.
Professional artist coming through.
But
it's weird. I can't see who's joining or anything. That's different than Instagram, where I can see kind of who's joining.
So I think so the way it works is you and I have our own feeds.
Oh,
so I have like Darth Guys 84. Brooks C4 says hello there. So some people will join my lives, and then some people will join your lives, and then they could ask us questions, but I don't see what they say to you, and you don't see what they say to me. I believe that's
so far nothing, but I'm sure that'll change.
but yeah, you're right. TikTok is a total joint lot. It's like a joint effort.
Yeah. Well, this is my first TikTok live, everyone. So, yeah.
Oh, hey, I didn't know that. Welcome.
Yeah.
Yay. Republic Cosplays joined. Hello there. Yeah. So again, I think the TikTok Star Wars creator community is just going gaga for Mark Hamill. And again, I jumped on the bandwagon last night and then today, and I would love it if he liked it. I would go crazy if he commented it. If he duetted, stitched, or followed me, I think I would just lose my mind.
Right.
Hello, Brooke C4.
And I mentioned to you what my dream would be, and because I voiced it, now that means it's not going to happen. But as you know, uploaded the video of myself as old Anakin, when he gets unmasked because the CDC said it was okay, so he just took off his mask.
Oh,
Um,
right.
and yeah, it'd be so cool if Mark duetted that. But I don't think he'd actually do that. I feel like that's kind of going into other territory, like recreating a scene. I feel like not a lot of actors would be up for that. Actors, are fine with doing shout outs, and it seems like Mark's okay with kind of, doing a duet and acknowledging another a cosplayer, I guess, right? And
Yeah.
yeah, but I don't think he would like be up for like, hey, let's reenact the scene. Like, I think that's going a little too far for him.
I agree, because I see that who does the voice for Maul on Rebels?
Sam Witwer.
Yeah. Daisy. Yeah.
Sorry, Rick.
Sam Witwer, he does he's on Cameo, and I don't know how this option works, but I think you could schedule like a one-on-one conversation with him. Is that?
Oh, really?
Or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't used Cameo. I've gotten a few Cameos as gifts from one of my roommates who's, really sweet for doing that, but I haven't actually ordered a Cameo, so I don't know. But that makes sense, especially during the pandemic. I mean, you can't do like meet and greets at cons, so there's been a lot of like, hey, like, have a 5-minute conversation with this person or whatever.
So I don't know if they would, you're right, I don't know if they would do lines, if they're comfortable with those lines, and they're probably also kind of over it. Like, right. They probably get it everywhere they go.
Hey Sam, can you yell Kenobi into my
exactly? That's what I
kind of
wanted to do. I kind of wanted to do the. I'm sorry, I don't believe I've made your acquaintance. I'm surprised you've forgotten me when you left me for dead on Naboo, and I think that would have been fun. But yeah, he might be over it. And same thing with Mark Hamill. I was thinking of doing my Batman, or actually do a passable Joker impression. But again, he's probably like, I think Mark Kenobi is just like light shines in, what's the expression? Light shines in a bottle. He captures lightning in a bottle. Like his name is Mark. So
and his last name's Kenobi.
Well, sort of, but yeah, his name is Mark, and he went to another Mark and said, "Do you want to form an alliance with me?" And it's a rebel alliance. There's so many.
I didn't get that. I got the reference. Because I got that it's a line from The Office, but I didn't think about the Rebel Alliance.
Skin Layla want Mark to sign her art, and I'm not sure if that's Mark Kenobi or Mark Hamill. I'm gonna say
most likely Mark Kenobi.
Yeah, I agree. And that's
he's a big deal.
Swolo Ren 66 joined. Yeah. So so in Mark Hamill, I think in his comments he has something like the Mark resistance begins, or the Mark. He has a Mark joke there, and
so Mark Hamill is Mark 1, so Mark Kenobi would be Mark 2.
Mark 2, and then some down the road here, the Mark 42.
Yeah.
Which is the prodigal son.
Yeah, exactly. And then we go up to Mark 98, something like that. I can't remember what the last one was. And then we get to Mark Ruffalo.
On a related note, I don't know why Iron Man 3 gets a lot of hate. I love Iron Man 3. It's just really good.
So for me, Iron Man 3, when it came out, I didn't like it at first, but it's one of those that's grown on me. So like with Iron Man 3, I just felt like it was really different than the first two. And so like I didn't warm up to it at first. I felt like it was very apparent that it was a new director and like a new style. And like for me, I know a lot of people don't agree. I really liked Iron Man 1 and 2. And I felt like there was a similar tone to them. And kind of similar characters, similar settings. And Iron Man 3 was something kind of different. And yeah, I didn't like it at first, but since watching it, I'm actually like, you know what? Like once I got over like, oh, I'm disappointed that the Mandarin's not really in it, then I can enjoy it for what it is, and it's a really great movie. But it's sort of it has a different style.
I collected Iron Man as a kid, but I don't know, maybe I just missed a lot of Mandarin plot lines. So I didn't that made it worse.
I like your lens flares though.
Yeah. Eat your heart out, J.J. Abrams. I I didn't care. I thought it was funny that it was that he wasn't really the Mandarin, and
Right.
I love Ben Kingsley. I think he's so funny in that movie. And
Real quick, hello, Tilted Coffee on my end. They just joined and said hi.
oh, hello there. So yeah, I thought Ben Kingsley was great in that movie, and there's so much great humor in it, and I also liked that it made. So I'm not a big fan of Iron Man 2. I probably only saw it once. It's one of the few Marvel movies I saw like once or twice. I do need to rewatch it. I've been watching clips lately, and I'm like, I don't remember this. I should probably watch it again. But I think where was I going with that? I just think it's good. I like that Tony is made human. He has the anxiety attacks. His house gets destroyed. Brazilian girl 123 joined. Hello there. I think that name sounds familiar. She's been Tilted Coffee's now with me. What's that?
You turned her against me or him or they? I don't know.
You have done that yourself.
You will not take Tilted Coffee from me.
Your
anger and lust for power.
I've already done that.
I'm just gonna do your lines since I know them better.
Jeff Joe Bobo joined.
What I really do like in retrospect about Iron Man 3 is that we all kind of expected it to be one thing. We thought it was going to be like the comics and the cartoons where it's like the Mandarin and he's a terrorist and maybe he even uses magic or who knows what, and it was going to be a very straightforward story. It ended up being a lot more complex than that, and it was about something we didn't think it was going to be, which is kind of like the villain ended up being kind of corporate America and like someone trying to protect their own interest and someone feeling betrayed by like Tony and manipulating like up to like the very highest office in U.S. government to basically sell a product. And I just thought that was, it ended up being more interesting than I expected it to be.
You know who just joined my side? Sunflower Stardust.
Hey, how's it going?
Dude, she's like one of my favorite TikTokers. When I first joined TikTok and I didn't follow that many people, I think it was her, hello there, she just said. It was her, the trend with Mr. Blue Sky when everyone was running through the, running out the door. And hers, she had escaping the Death Star. And she had the nearsighted scout trooper, which is funny because I can't find it, but there is a shot of a nearsighted stormtrooper who turns around to say, let's go. But I think the other extra was right in his face. And he's just like, whoa. That might be some sort of deleted scene. Yeah. And then she was Luke and Vader. And then she did Palpatine, but then she wrote Palps with a question mark as like she was running out. And
right.
That's
so funny. I do remember that.
Larissa. And then her Dolores skits are just really amazing. And I need to start doing skits with myself. And I don't know. I still have to figure that out.
Like I look at like Larissa and like Jen Markman, I'm just like, how do they like that's like film production value, like the level to just the amount of work they put into like their TikToks. Like all I'm trying to do is to duet myself. I filmed a scene with Doctor Strange. I want to duet with Tony. I want to duet with Bruce Banner. I have not worked up the energy to do that, and that's not that hard.
Like Jen Markham, I really think is like here. Like even her weekend life. High ground. She does have the high ground when it comes to TikTok. Like even her weekend life, like they put a boat in the water last weekend, right? Just a boat. But if you look at it, there's multiple camera angles. So I'm like, so do you have multiple cameras set up? Or do you just have, Larissa said Jen is on another level. But so like, do you have multiple cameras set up? Or do you guys say what you're going to do with the boat and then to stop and take the camera, put it someplace else, and then action and say what else are you doing with the boat? Like if you're doing that with like stormtroopers and your scout trooper and Baby Yoda, that's one thing. But with your weekend adventures of putting a boat in the water, I'm like, that's hardcore. And I don't know.
Maybe they just have a camera crew following them around.
At this point, Lena Meyer 14 says, hello there. And
Hello.
Shannon O'Brien 17 joined. Hello there.
And Sinister Mason joined my end, so hello.
Hello there.
I wish Anakin had a good catchphrase to say hello. He really needs that.
This is where the fun begins. But
yeah, I guess that works.
Where was I going with Jen Markham? I mean, she could have a reality show. And what's funny is that you know who I love in her show, besides Trooper Mom? Her husband Jeremy is such a great sport. And I don't know if you follow Justin Sonfeld on Instagram.
I know.
So they were at Disneyland World, and he had his Instagram stories. And I'm flipping through. I'm like, yeah, sure, cool. And then I saw in the background, I saw Justin, and right, Larissa says it's weird that they don't combine the chats for the dual live. I agree, it is weird. So I saw Justin in the background.
Always two, there are no more, no less chats. That is.
So with Justin, so going through Justin's pictures, and I saw Jeremy in the background, but I'm like, wait, who's that in the background? Like, I know that guy. Like, why do I know that guy? And I'm just looking, and I'm like, oh my God, that's Jeremy Markham. And then I hit next, and there was Jen. I'm like, that's insane. And I know they're friends, but I just didn't. Just seeing Jeremy out of context of his backyard and not with Jen, I was just like, why do I know that person? Like, I know.
What is this, a crossover episode?
It was a total crossover episode. We're gonna have our own crossover episode in June, but we'll save that.
That's right. Yeah, we both exist within the same universe. If anyone was curious, or our lives will interact and will form a team,
an alliance.
An alliance, yes.
Yeah.
49er Maniac joined. 49er Maniac is an old coworker of mine, Jose. Hello, Jose. Long time.
I was going to say Jose must be local because his name is 49er.
Believe it or not, he's not. No, I'm just kidding. He is. Yeah, he and I worked together and for a really long time. So nice to see you, or nice to see your name at least, Jose.
Yep. So Larissa brings up a great point where celebrations to be crazy with all the TikTok friends. Right, because like I definitely like to meet Larissa for sure. Jen, honestly, Jen Markham at this point could have her own booth.
Probably, yeah.
Have her own booth is like, okay, well, here's $25, and hey, Jen, good to meet you, and okay, this is cheese. Okay, have fun at the con.
Well, the issue is that everyone will be filming TikToks like as they're walking, and so like everyone will be doing lives, and so it's just gonna be crazy.
So it's funny because people say I should start a blog. Do we live in the same city? We technically do live in the same city.
We do.
We both live in San Jose, but San Jose is really big.
It is.
I think Rick is what, 35, maybe 25, 30 minutes away from me?
Well, right now during the pandemic, I've been with my family, so I'm a little bit closer. So I'm about 15 minutes away from you. Mm-hmm. But where I normally live is about 20, 25 minutes north.
Yeah.
But yeah. Like, we're not that far away from each other. Jason and I met through the Rebel Legion. Basically, for anyone who doesn't know, it's a costume group for basically light side, good side Star Wars characters. And he joined first as Obi Wan. I joined as Anakin, and the
technically I technically joined first as generic Jedi, but it looks very similar to Obi Wan, and everyone kept on calling me Obi Wan. But I felt guilty not being Obi Wan, so I said I should. And Larissa, you live in Nashville, right? Tennessee, I think. So going back to celebration and everyone's filming TikToks, a lot of people said you should start a podcast, and I would love to start a podcast, but I don't want Star Wars to suddenly become work. Meaning, like, I want to go to Celebration, I want to enjoy it, I want to watch the new trailer of whatever, and if I'm so excited about it, I don't want to go live and interview people about it or get my thoughts about it right away, because I'm like, I'm psyched to be there, and I just want to enjoy the moment. So that's one of the reasons why I don't start any type of podcast, because I want to enjoy things. And Larissa does live in Nashville.
I definitely get that, because my life is centered around pop culture, around movies, TV, you name it. And as a kid, because these have always been my hobbies. I mean, I've loved Star Wars since I was 6. I've loved other fandoms, a little bit after that. But like people have always said, well, why don't you do something with movies or TV or something? Like you would probably
Yeah.
enjoy that. And my answer has always been like, no, I don't think I would enjoy it because then it would become work.
It
And I
becomes
know
work.
friends who are in the entertainment business who either do acting or no, or like singing or you know, hey, no worries at all, Jody. Um, but yeah, like they work in like the arts or entertainment, and it's not to say that they don't enjoy entertainment anymore, but they look at it with a more critical eye that I don't really want to do. I kind of just want to enjoy things. I'm a big proponent of like we should, if it's entertainment, we should focus on enjoying it first and then critiquing it second.
Right.
And so like I don't want to be like working in something professionally and be like, oh yes, I'm just thinking about like everything that went into making that and it's just stressing me out because of a project that I'm working on. So it's the same thing with like social media. I don't like committing to like doing something like you said, a podcast that's like it has to be done on like a specific timeline, or like a YouTube channel or something where I have to do
Right.
things. And for my social media, I do things because I want to and because I feel like it, and there's no rule that says that I have to post. I post because because it's fun. And
I personally think the name of my podcast that I came up with was I think I was called the Occasional Lebo Chronicles, and and I still think I want to do that, and like because I want to have interesting people on there. Like I'd like to have Jen Markham on there. I'd love to have Mark Kenobi on there right now and just say,
don't lie,
dude,
you'd
let's
like
talk.
to have Mark Hamill.
Mark Hamill. Oh sure, if I had my dream, it'd be Mark Hamill. But I want to talk to Mark Kenobi and say, dude, how do you feel? Like that. Actually, Mark Kenobi should use that sound. But like, dude, how do you feel? Like that has to be. I cannot imagine. Again, when I saw it, I thought I was looking at his feed, and when I realized I was looking at Mark Hamill's feed, I'm like, what just happened? And yeah, but there's
Yeah, I
other.
took this all.
I want to do growing up with Star Wars and talk to people my age about what it's like to be a Star Wars fan. I want to do parenting Star Wars and talk to people who have kids and
Wait, you
say
have
how did.
kids?
Yeah, I know you
I
would
didn't
never
know
know it,
that.
but talk to people who have kids and say like, what age did you show your kids? Like who is it? I think Mark Kenobi. I think he showed his daughter Star Wars, and she's like 3 weeks old. And I'm like, oh goodness, no, I calculated like they had to be able to comprehend it, and
Right.
and then I thought long and hard, like, what order do you watch it in? Do I show it in the order that I watched it in, or do we go in chronological order? And so I think that'd be a fun topic. Daisy, get in the house.
Real quick on my end, Jason, Jose has to go, and he said, "Good to see you, Rick and Jason. Keep up the awesome skits. Hashtag be safe. Catch you later. Nice to
All right.
talk to you,
Bye,
Jose. Take care of yourself."
And release order, yes. And so, yes, Larissa, I did do release order with them. And what's funny is my plan. I saw Star Wars: A New Hope in 1977. So wait, I'm back. There I am. Okay, so I saw A New Hope in 1977. So I was 8 years old. So my plan was to wait for Henry to be 8. But The Force Awakens pushed my hand because Henry would not have been 8 when that came out, and I figured, oh well, the sequel trilogy is going to be his trilogy, and we're going to see that in the theater and the big screen. So therefore, we are pushing my timeline ahead. But again, I'd love to talk to other parents and parenting with Star Wars. I have a lot of great topics. Again, it's just the will, the motivation, and then it becomes work. So that's one reason why I don't do it.
Hang on, can you hear me okay? Because our connection went away for like a second, but I'm
Yeah, it went away for a second.
Yeah.
I have a social media time limit on my phone, so I'm not on it all the time, but I override it all the time, and it just kicked in. Saying,
oh man, well that doesn't even count the amount of time. That doesn't even count the amount of time you put into making your like videos and stuff.
I think it does because I filmed like 3 or 4 Kenobi videos today, so I think it does.
Oh, and you film them in the app so it can tell that you're on it.
Yeah. Obi Wan 283 just joined, and they say do it, and they might be talking about the podcast.
Yeah. Or maybe it's just
but again,
Palpatine.
so like, well, maybe he is Palpatine. But again, it's kind of like when the Kenobi show comes out. Like, maybe I don't feel like talking about it. And, and then I'll get emails saying, oh, I'm surprised you haven't mentioned the Kenobi show. I'm like, oh, yeah, well, I'm still processing it, and I loved it. I mean, yeah.
I'm so excited for the Kenobi show, and I'm so
I
happy
am
that they're
too.
filming it.
So, with Hayden Christensen in it, do you think, I hear you on Feeling Like Work, it's why I posted sporadic on here, laugh out loud. I don't know what the conversation about, but release order is of it movies. Yep, I did release order. And the cool thing about Larissa, is it Larissa or Risa? Well, she can't answer, so, but she's in TV. Like, she does production.
That's right.
And I'm jealous. That was my path in college. I was supposed to go, I majored in broadcasting and I did communications, and it felt like work, so I did something else, but I regret it. But yeah, going back to the Kenobi show with Hayden Christensen there, like, he's going to play Darth Vader, which is awesome. But because they got the actor, we're assuming a lot of flashbacks and maybe astral projections, right? Or something.
Yeah, I mean, I think it would be a waste to not have Hayden acting as Anakin as opposed to Vader, because if it's Vader, it's going to be a lot of like the epilogue to Revenge of the Sith, which is just him inside the suit. And yes, it was him inside the suit, and that was cool, and I think he wanted to do that, but like it could have been anyone else and we wouldn't know. And then like, yes, we could also see him in the in the burnt makeup, and that would be great, but we'll never actually get to see his face all that clearly. So I think there have to be scenes with Anakin as we knew him, whether those are flashbacks, whether those are visions, whether they're, like you said, astral projections, like some sort of like different dimension where Anakin and Obi-Wan, or Vader and Obi-Wan are communicating, or maybe there's a piece of Anakin's soul that's communicating with him. It's something like that. Like, if you think about it, like when you've got a big star, and I think Hayden Christensen's a big star because of his role. Like, there's he is. There's never a movie where they just never show their face. So like the two examples that come to mind.
I'm going to counter you this in 2 seconds.
Okay, you counter me, but let me give you my examples. One of them is Mark Ruffalo. So in Endgame, Hulk was Professor Hulk the whole time, so we didn't really need to see Mark Ruffalo at all, but they found a way to stick him in there, which was astral projection. Same thing with Jennifer Lawrence. Jennifer Lawrence was Mystique for the X-Men prequels, and she could have been blue the whole time, but she wasn't. She was only blue like maybe half the time, because they were always able to have her transformed and show her face. So I feel like there's always going to be a way for them to show the actor's face, because I mean, actors aren't going to sign up for a movie.
I'm going to counter you in 2 seconds.
Your turn.
Larissa, it's Larissa, by the way. She typed in phonetically. Wants to know what we do for work, if you're comfortable sharing on here.
Yeah.
I work for a data center, which is completely opposite of broadcasting. I've been in the tech industry. I've been in the tech industry for, 20 years, and I'm so not technical. I've really gotten a successful career on my I've won an award on this, literal award-winning personality. And people like me, and I've just been in tech for that long, which makes job hunting difficult, because a lot of times I interviewed at Facebook, and I really got far in the interviews until they gave me a technical test, and that was just like a boom. But that's what I do, and then I'm going to counter. Nope. This is like a teaser. I'm going to counter Rick's statements in a few seconds after Rick tells us what he does. Rick,
now when I hear tech, I just hear tick because of Omega.
Yeah. Right.
I think it's a good plan, tick.
I like Omega. Yeah.
Yeah. So what do I do for a living? I'm a social worker. I worked for like 7 or 8 years at actually some homeless shelters here in where I live in the San Jose area. That was really cool. I enjoyed it. Eventually, I had to move on. So I work for the county now. And what I do now is not quite that interesting. A homeless shelter, there was just so much there that, like I could probably tell stories for forever. But yeah, I'm a social worker. And I'm actually at the moment doing contact tracing, believe it or not. When you're a social worker, they sometimes put you on temporary assignments like during disasters. So I'm what they call a disaster service worker. And so I'm actually, calling people who've either tested positive for COVID or have been exposed, and kind of sharing information on how to quarantine or how to isolate. And then kind of collecting information to better understand the spread of COVID-19 and like sign people up for the vaccine. So that's definitely the more interesting thing I've got going on right now. But yeah, that was a long answer. I'm a social worker. I have my master's in social work. It stands for MSW, but I tell people that MSW stands for Masters in Star Wars. So many
That's
jokes
true.
there, considering the master part.
Right.
But yeah, social worker.
Okay. So here's the thanks y'all. So here's the counter argument. Ready? 3, 2, 1. Gwendolyn Christie.
Okay.
See,
That's all I
to
need.
me- yeah. To me, it was a complete waste of time. Like, you get Gwendolyn Christie, right? And I didn't watch Game of Thrones. I don't know Game of Thrones, but just what little I do know about her, she's a beloved actress. She's super tall. She's very beautiful. She's striking. You got Gwendolyn Christie to play Captain Phasma.
And you see her eye.
You see her eye. And I thought, one, what a waste. But two, I was really hoping she'd be like Kenny from South Park, and she would be in The Rise of Skywalker. And
that's what I thought.
And she could have now had no helmet and had like a burn scarred face, and I would have totally accepted it. And I'm not sure what I would have done with her and that, but hello there, says Nightline369. But Gwendolyn Christie, I agree with everything you said prior. You get a big name actor, and you need to get them, like Ryan Reynolds in Deadpool, right? I think in Deadpool 2, was he not scarred at some point? Was it a flashback? I forget.
I think there was a flashback, and yeah, I think you're right. Yeah.
Yeah, so you're gonna get a good looking actress to play a role, and no matter how they look, especially in sci-fi, obviously if the role requires them to be mutated, then no. But in like Marvel or Star Wars, but then of course you're gonna reveal them, like you said, with Mark Ruffalo is a great example. But Gwendolyn Christie, I think, just kind of, in my opinion, you could have CGI'd her. You couldn't have got anyone to play her, and you could have got Gwendolyn Christie maybe to voice her, right? To voice the character.
Yeah, she didn't have to be there like on set wearing the costume.
Right.
I wonder if she was. I think she was. I'm pretty sure.
I'm sure she was.
Yeah. Yeah, that one's definitely an exception, and I think like I get really defensive of the sequel trilogy mainly because it like has so many haters right now. Like, sequel trilogy isn't like, they're not my favorite movies in the world by any means, but because there's so much hate, I tend to kind of gravitate towards defending them a lot. But that's one of the areas that I feel like they totally dropped the ball, which was, Phasma. Like, Phasma was set up to be a really cool and interesting character, and it felt like her story was maybe going somewhere. Like The Force Awakens was like, oh, well, you don't have a big role in this one, but just wait till the next one. And the next one, it's like, oh, you don't have a big role in this one, but oh no, she's dead.
So with Phasma, I mean, it's really obvious that the guy traitor and fights Finn, that should have been Phasma. Like,
right.
That should have been.
Yeah, it's so true. I never thought about that.
I know, not for nothing, that guy got more love than Phasma did in The Force Awakens. So that totally should have been Phasma, who should have been there and been like traitor, and they fought and whatever. And
that's kind of what happened in TLJ, but the Force Awakens ones was better.
But I liked the deleted scene in TLJ where Finn rats her out and says, "Hey, Phas," in front of the First Order trooper.
That's
says,
right.
Hey, you turned off the shield, and you're a traitor. And and they start to look at her, and I think they may even turn their guns on her, and she kills them. And I don't know if she escapes, but I would have had. So if I could change everything with the sequel trilogy, and I like the sequel trilogy a lot. Force Awakens is one of my favorites. The other two are probably in my bottom tiers, but I enjoy a lot of moments.
Sure.
I don't hate them. I like them a lot. But if I can make some changes, I would have had Gwendolyn Christie be the traitor person, and I would have had the deleted scene in TLJ. I would have kept that, and then I would have had her come back in The Rise of Skywalker in some form or fashion. And I don't know what that would have looked like, but.
No, I think that would have really improved a lot of things. I mean, like, there's so many other things, but as far as her character, that would have made a lot of sense. So I was thinking about this today, and this is one area where I think I disagree. Like, for me particularly, I feel like, okay, The Force Awakens was a really good movie by itself. And I think this is true of a lot of the sequel trilogy, but I think it did a poor I shouldn't say a poor job. I think it could have done a better job setting up the new sequel trilogy. I'm really curious to hear what all of their original plans were, but I feel like it needed, in order for the sequel trilogy to do well, it would have needed a really strong setup. And as you know, a lot of people say, like, you know, The Force Awakens kind of ended up being a movie that was more like, you know, hey, you like Star Wars, here's another A New Hope.
Right.
And you know, like it sort of like took new characters and jammed them into like the story we already know. Um, and I feel like that was definitely, I would have preferred more of a focus on what new story can we tell? Why is this a story that we're telling? You know, the story really ended at Return of the Jedi, you know, and it felt very complete. So why are we telling more? Like, what is it that we're working towards? I feel like they eventually got to that in The Rise of Skywalker. Why is this important? Oh, it's because Palpatine is still alive. You know, oh, it's because, you know, that we've got, you know, Ben and we're trying to redeem him and all of that. So all those things, you know, ended up kind of making sense in the end, but I wish they'd started setting them up earlier.
So
I think
one,
like yeah,
Larissa says we should do a podcast together because this is interesting,
yeah.
which it is.
Thank you, Larissa.
Thank you. Two, like, again, I'm not bashing the sequel trilogy. Force Awakens is one of my favorite movies because I love Grumpy Han Solo. Grumpy Han Solo is my favorite thing of all
True.
time.
That was
But
one
it's
of the
funny,
best
you
parts.
look, I was thinking about this the other day. The original trailer, not the original trailer, it was the second trailer that said, you know, the Force goes strong in my family. My brother, my sister has it, I have it, and you have that power too. So that's Luke talking to Ben. But that was such a cheap ploy because it was never indicated in any form or fashion that he was talking to Ben. It was really pushed on us that he was talking to Rey, and I assume, because he said the Force runs strong, so I assume he's talking to Ben, and not Rey. But I don't know. I don't know.
It was a tease. I think that they filmed that only for the trailer. You know, the movies do that more and more all the time,
Oh, yeah.
where they film stuff for the trailer because the trailer ends up getting watched more than the movie. You know, and people, you know, watch it over and over again, and they analyze every bit of it. So they kind of have to put as much effort into the trailer as they do the movie. And you think about like Avengers.
What's funny about The Force Awakens is how she doesn't. She's got it. So what's funny? Oh God, you're frozen.
Sorry, I was just checking my battery to make sure.
Okay. So what's funny about the Force Awakens is I started to believe the hype that Mark Hamill was Kylo Ren because he wasn't doing any of the talk shows. He wasn't in the, you know, is all these things. And I started to Google, has a trailer or a poster ever lied in a movie? Rick, you might be right. Don't get me started on Rogue One trailer. Dude, 95% isn't in the movie. I agree. Rogue One is a perfect example of the trailer you're talking about because none of it was in the movie. Hey, Mary J. Skywalker. Hello there.
Hey, Diana, right? That's Diana. Yeah.
I think so, yeah.
Diana
it totally is. I can see it by a picture. Hello there.
Yeah, she cosplays Mara Jade and Ahsoka, and she's marvelous at both.
And the Capri Suns is my favorite sound ever.
And the Capri Sun, yeah. And she's like one of the nicest people.
But
I mean, I say that about a lot of people.
The Rogue One trail is a perfect example. I think Endgame, or no, it was Infinity War. They took some liberty shots that they kind of threw some.
Yeah, they had like the Hulk running with like the rest of the team that was never in the movie. And then, and I don't know if those are deleted scenes or if they were filmed for the trailer. I'm not sure.
Yeah, but so for a while I started to think if maybe Mark Hamill was Kylo Ren. Like I started to question myself, and it's kind of like Mephisto in WandaVision, and YouTube was big then, but I started to fall down the hype and whatever. And so to me, I love The Force Awakens. I think again, I love Grumpy Han Solo. I love the lightsaber flashback scene. I'm okay with the Luke being at the end of it. I made a TikTok about this before. For me, The Last Jedi didn't answer any of the questions that were ever asked in The Force Awakens, and it didn't ask any new questions to be answered in The Rise of Skywalker. And to me, it was almost like a one-off. Like you could have ended it, and I would have said that was awesome. And
it was a spin-off film, basically. It felt like a spin-off film at times.
And I just didn't feel like there was a need for a third movie, per se. And then The Rise of Skywalker. This is just my opinion, and I like it. There's a lot of parts I like about it. I just feel like that they had a game plan, and then Ryan Johnson did his own thing, and then the Rise of Skywalker was JJ saying, let's try to get back to my game plan, and they did a lot of backtracking, and it just I remember we saw it together, and the whole Palpatine thing. I remember they said it, but they said it really quickly, and they didn't really stick on that. Like they said, "Oh yeah, Palpatine, she's a Palpatine," and then they went on, and I'm like, "Wait, what?" And I think I was with you, and I'm like, "Did they just say she's a Palpatine?" And you're like, "Yeah." I'm like, "You think they'd stay on that a little longer for me because that just seems weird."
Mm-hmm.
Mara Jade says, "Oh yeah." So wait, we got a bunch of comments. So let's see. Yes, you know my name. You guys are too sweet. Seriously, I would listen to this podcast. And then Larissa said, yeah, that's my pet peeve with the sequel trilogy too. Marriage Skywalker and Sai So Tragic. Yeah. So, but I love all the characters, right? I love Finn. I love Poe. I love BB-8. I love Rey. And I think Rey is such an amazing character. I love Ben. I love Kylo Ren. Honestly, again, going back to Force Awakens, I love his temper tantrums. They are fantastic. The first one where, it's like the droid stole a freighter. And they're like, well, we have confirmation that FN2187, then and what I love about that is that goes on 2 or 3 beats too long. Like, it should end here, and it takes like 1 and 2 more swings, and it's like, anything else?
And that's why it's great, because it makes you kind of feel uneasy and uncomfortable.
Right. You feel uneasy. Exactly. And then anything else? They were accompanied by a girl. And I don't know if they did this on purpose, but he pulls the officer towards him. And I don't know if they did this on purpose, but they turn off his voice modulator, and it's pure Adam Driver.
Oh, really? I didn't notice
that. And he goes, what girl? And I just love it. And then later on, when she escapes, and he's like, no. And he starts slashing the torture chair, and the 2 TKs are like, yeah, we're going to go the other way. Nope. Love it. One complaint I do have about The Force Awakens, and I agree with the fanboys with this, there should have been some sort of explanation that she knew what a Jedi mind trick was. I just felt it weird she didn't know what it was. Now, granted, you could say, how did Captain America know how to draw lightning? Like, he didn't get any lessons on that. Sure. But I feel like you feel like Captain America knew that Mjolnir Meow could pull down lightning. So he knows it could do it. But for Jedi mind tricks, I always thought later on we'd learn that she was somewhat trained, and they put some sort of block on her, and when Kylo Ren was rolling a mind, he damaged that blockage thing. That was always my theory. And
yeah, that's a good theory, actually.
Thanks. I should write Lucasfilm and get a job there. But so that was where I was going with it. I do think there should have been some explanation how she knew how to do that. Now you can say the Force told her she could do it. I think there's something saying that, like, when Ben probed her mind, they kind of exchanged information, and maybe that's how she learned how to do it. But there should have been some sort of explanation. And don't get me wrong, that's one of my favorite scenes in the movie, where it's James Bond, and she goes, you will release these restraints, and yeah, sorry, exactly. I'm just going on, but and then you'll drop your weapon, and I'll drop my weapon. Honestly, The Force Awakens is one of my all-time favorites.
I love that one tradition in the sequel trilogy is having big name actors and celebrities play stormtroopers, and you never know it's them, because you got Daniel Craig in The Force Awakens, and then in TLJ you've got Tom Hardy, Prince Harry, and Prince what's his brother?
William.
Prince Harry. What?
Prince William.
Yeah, William.
So we got some comments on my timeline. I'm going to go back just a bit.
Yeah.
Same So Tragic. Yes. Sound agree. Oh, I listened to this talking about our podcast. Yes. What girl is the best? I thought she figured out because Kylo Ren tried to do it to her. That's possible. Yeah. I guess that wasn't a mind trick. Is it a dyad thing? So that's what I'm thinking. But they should have mentioned the dyad in The Force Awakens. I agree. And oh my God, Daniel Craig was so funny there. I agree. It's one of my again. I love The Force Awakens, and I know you said it didn't. It did stay in its comfort zone, no doubt about it. They said, we're making a movie. We're going to stay within our comfort zone. I don't take it as a reboot, as A New Hope. I mean, So a droid has a secret thing. That must happen all the time in that universe. They go to a cantina. That's got to happen every day. Just to digress for a sec, you know what I would love to see? I would go nuts if this happens. If Din Djarin in The Mandalorian goes to Taco Ghana, is that what it's called?
Taco
And
Donna
goes
and meets
and
Moss.
goes to Maz's castle. I would
Yeah.
love it if they would get Loop. I can't pronounce
Lupita Nyong'o.
I can't pronounce her name, to reprise the role because she also got kind of shafted in the next two movies. She got no role. So I would love it if he goes there and meets with her, and like he walks in and she's like Mando, like she did with Han Solo. I would go nuts. And honestly, I said it'd be fun if Mando had some sort of role in the Skywalker lightsaber. Like he's the one who brings it to Maz's castle for whatever reason.
A good story for another time.
A good story for another time. We need to hear that story, and I would be totally okay if Din Djarin is that story. And again, what Star Wars is starting to do, that Marvel does, is starting to get that thread to go through all the stories, right? And I think that would be a great way to bring Mando in it.
And I think Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni are really good
Larissa
at that.
is leaving. Bye, Larissa.
Bye, Larissa.
Larissa. Sorry.
It's Han, actually.
It's Han, but that's okay. So is this Sabak?
I agree with you. I think that one of the things that I think Clone Wars did really well is connecting the prequel trilogy and making us care about it more and making us enjoy it more, and it sort of enhances the prequel trilogy. I feel like Mando is doing that for the sequel trilogy a little bit, which is that it's very clearly setting up Snoke. It's very clearly setting up the Palpatine clones. It's what else is it setting up? Those are the two that come to mind right now. I think the Bad Batch is doing that too. You and I have talked about how we think Omega is possibly a Force-sensitive clone. I think that's a pretty popular theory right now, and that's going to tie into Grogu. That's going to tie into the cloner scientist dude. That's going to tie into then the sequel trilogy. And I feel like if they tie all that together, then it's going to make us enjoy the sequel trilogy more.
I agree. Mara Jade says Dave Filoni is a genius. He is, and so is Jon Favreau. And I do want to say I do hate when people bash Kathleen Kennedy, because none of this is her job. Her job is money, and
she's an executive.
Will this make her money? Sure, she probably has creative ideas. She might have some suggestions. She might reject something that may have been, in hindsight, better. But she's looking at all from a financial point of view. She's not the one to sit down and says, I want a movie about a female Jedi who does. That's not her role. And I want to have Luke Skywalker in The Mandalorian, make that happen. That's not her. Now, they might go to her and say, hey, we want to have digital Luke Skywalker. And she might be like, I love it. Let's do it. But I do like it. I agree. Dave. And she doesn't make
I get really irked when we've talked about this, when she gets kind of blamed for projects that people don't like, but she also doesn't get any credit for the projects that people do like. And at the end of the day, as far as we know, her role in all of them is pretty much the same, which is that she's the person overseeing everything and hiring the directors who do make the creative decisions. And she's ultimately the person. I'm sure she reads the scripts. I mean, she definitely read the Kenobi script, because I remember her saying she wasn't really happy with it or something, so they reworked it or something. But but ultimately, I mean, okay, if you don't, if you don't like a movie and you feel like Kathleen Kennedy's to blame, okay, but then you also have to give her credit for the stuff you do like. So if you hated the sequel trilogy and you blame her, okay, but you also have to give her credit for Mando and Clone Wars and Bad Batch and whatever else you did like, Rogue One, I don't know.
So, but as Diana mentions, she has so many amazing movies under her belt, and she's been involved in all. I mean, she's been mentored by Spielberg and Lucas, and now I do know in the making of Mando, Dave Filoni gave that amazing poetic analysis of the Duel of Fates and what it means to Star Wars. Absolutely amazing. I still don't think you give the keys to Lucasfilm to Dave Filoni, because he's really good at where he is. You don't want to take him out of that. And he probably was mentored, Lucas probably was his mentor, and he probably trained him a lot, and that's awesome. And maybe at one point, Kathleen Kennedy will step down, and maybe Dave will go there. But I think even Dave will say he's not ready for that chair.
Sure. I
You
mean,
were there.
that's
You were there when we saw the Mando premiere at the movie theater, and they had the I think it was the Q&A after, right?
that's
And
right.
and so they were in the desert, and they're about to, he met with the photography director, and they were just chatting.
I remember this.
And the director of photography says, "Well, we're on the clock now. We better get shooting." And he's like, "What do you mean we're on the clock?" He's like, "The sun's up." He's like, "We can only shoot when the sun is up, and we gotta go." And Filoni's like, in animation, you never thought about that. So
Yeah, he
that's
literally was
something
like,
you never
"Oh, the
considered.
sun."
The sun,
I thought there
right?
was two of them, but okay.
Yeah, right. Steve Jobs 43 says hello. Hello there. I worked at Apple for a while. Aren't you dead?
Yeah.
But yeah, so I think even Dave Filoni said he's not. I bet he would say he's not ready for the job.
Well, I mean, I think that's the mistake a lot of like companies make, that they have a really good employee, so they promote them to a leadership position, and then that's fine. But that person might not be suited for a leadership position, and then you lose that really good employee in that particular role, like a salesperson or something.
Hey, Daddy
and then
Red
they're throwing
66 is here. Daddy
Who?
Red
Oh,
66.
it's his
Daddy Red
birthday.
66. Is it his birthday?
No, sorry, not Daddy Ren 66. I'm thinking about Anthony. Oh God, what's his?
It's Anthony,
He has a very similar. He has a very similar name on TikTok, if I'm not mistaken. No, Daddy Ren 66. I know. Yeah.
He's awesome. He's another TikTok star. He's got like 200, 300,000 followers. I think it's really impressive.
That's so cool.
I'm struggling at 32.
He's done some amazing, like, kind of topical cosplays, like Zemo and Bucky, and trying to think what the other ones are, like the Knights of Ren and stuff like that.
He does the Knight of Ren guy. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. He's awesome. Really nice.
But going back, I worked for a company all the time. It was a modern design furniture company, and they would always take our top salesperson and bring him to corporate, and they would fail miserably. And you also took them out of the store where that they were a top salesperson, and that store would tank because you took your top salesperson out of there and you brought him to corporate. So you had a double loss.
That's exactly right. And that's what I think of every time people are like, hey, make Dave Filoni president of Lucasfilm. I feel like Jon Favreau could do it, but I still don't think that is, I think then we lose him as like the showrunner or director of the projects that he's working on, because yes, Dave Filoni could also do that, but I think Jon Favreau is still really good in the role that he's in, and I don't think being an executive is necessarily the best role for him, even though he can do that.
And then you lose Happy Hogan in future movies because he's not gonna have time to be in movies.
Exactly.
No, I agree. I think so going back to Star Wars, I like the thread they're starting to do. I would love for Din to go to Maz's castle at some point. The Kenobi show, I would love to see a flashback with a young Ahsoka and Hayden. I would go nuts if they do a live action Clone Wars thing. Even Count Dooku. I think I would love it if Obi-Wan bumps into Jabba the Hutt, or has to do something there. I'm just looking to things that are around that era, and what it would be cool to just intertwine.
Right. Yeah, I mean, Star Wars can definitely do that. I love your idea about Maz Kanata, because the whole point of Maz Kanata is that she has been around for so long and she kind of knows everyone, that I feel like it would be kind of a waste if we never saw her again.
Yep, and I loved her. I was kind of just, even watching The Force Awakens, I loved the idea of her character. I was disappointed that her castle got destroyed, and I was like, here's a character I love. Mara Jade says, I feel like Star Wars has been going on for so long now that it's really just about making moments.
Yeah. I mean, like, Star Wars just has so many characters at this point to be able to interweave them all. I think that, there definitely has to be a limit to that, because then people complain about, it's just fan service, and I don't mind that. I mean, as long as it's used sparingly and all that, like, as long as it's not the whole story, then I'm great with that. I love fan service.
I said that about last season of Mandalorian. People said, what do you think about it? And I said, honestly, I think a lot of it is fan service, but here's the thing. I'm a fan and I'm loving the service. So I'm all about it. I think it's great.
Right. I think that was another area I think where you and I had different opinions. I think would you say you prefer Mando season 1 over 2?
I do like Mando season 1 over 2.
Yeah.
I
And like
mean, I love seeing Luke. I loved. Okay, so let me put that drink down for a sec because I gotta use my hands when I talk. So what I loved about Mando season 1 is I felt like that they really quickly established their own universe and characters. You had the armor, you had Cara Dune. Let's talk about Cara Dune and not the actress. You had
right.
Grief Karga. You had the chick in the farming community, the girl,
Yeah.
the widow. You had the
The
widow
widow.
in the farming community. I felt like a lot of these characters had more stories that we would learn about. I figured season 2, we'd learn more about the widow. And I did a TikTok about how they asked, does anyone in the village know how to shoot a gun? And she's the only one to raise her hand. And when they were doing the training montage, she was an amazing shot. I'm like, she's got a backstory. And
She's
I
the
thought,
stormtrooper that yelled traitor.
no, I'm thinking, right. So possibly. But so I'm thinking she's got a backstory, right? Cara Dune,
And she's a
want to know more
Palpatine.
about her at the time. I liked Blue, who they brought. I like the original characters. I liked Blue in season 2, the X-Wing pilot. I loved Frog Lady. And someone once said Dave Filoni does not make characters that aren't important. So we will probably see Frog Lady again. But
Right.
so I really liked the universe they were creating within the Star Wars universe. And I was excited to see Bo-Katan, but I'm like, I know her already. And I was excited to see Luke and Boba, and I'm like, but I know them already. And I loved it. I mean, I'm not saying I didn't love it. I did love it. But I thought they did a good job establishing their show in season 1 that I wanted to learn more about those characters as well. And you only get
Right.
eight episodes, and we never saw them again. And Mary J says she always appreciates fan service. I mean, you can't go wrong with the fan service. I agree. I just wanted to know more about, like Dominic Pace. I'm sure he'd love for his character to appear in the show again.
No way, really?
Oh my god! Yeah.
So, I know. So like for me, like this is just now my opinion and my thoughts on it. Like, I enjoyed season 1 of Mandalorian because I don't think Star Wars could ever make something that I didn't enjoy. Like I've watched season 2 of the Ewoks cartoon from the 80s, even though like no reason to, just because it's Star Wars, I watched it. I've seen the holiday special multiple times, even though it's kind of painful to watch it, the original one. But like the fact that something is Star Wars already makes me love it because it's part of the universe that I love. And not only that, Mandalorian is really well done as a show. Like, it just has like the latest technology. It's a really heartwarming story about a dad and his son, basically. It's just really well crafted. The story, the acting, everything's great. But I felt like when I finished season 1, honestly, my thoughts were like, okay, so like I like this, but it's still, I wasn't as invested in it as I was the Skywalker saga, because to me the Skywalker saga like was a little bit like more profound for me because it had to do more with like the light side, the dark side, the Jedi, the Force, fathers and sons, and all of that. Like it's just like there was more that I was interested in, whereas I felt like Mando, I was just like, it's the story of this one dude, and that's cool, but like, is that all there is to it? Because if so, like it's sort of like it's like reading, to me it was like kind of like reading those old books, the Tales from Jabba's Palace, where it talks about like the individual like bounty hunters and like side characters, and I was just like, cool, they're a side character. I want to know more about the Jedi. I want to know more about the Skywalkers and what's going on in the wider universe. So to me, season 2 kind of like progressed more towards that, which was learning more about like what's going on in like the greater galaxy, seeing more of like familiar characters, learning more about the Jedi. I mean, ultimately, like to me, the Jedi are kind of the most central and interesting plot point. And then I don't know, like I really liked having more fan service. But that doesn't mean I didn't enjoy season 1. It doesn't mean any of that. Like I just I really like where season 2 is going, and I'm really like interested in seeing where season 3 goes. And I think the thing I'm most interested in is how Mando, Ahsoka, and Boba Fett and the Rangers of the New Republic are all going to tie in together. Is it going to be this huge thing dealing with Thrawn? Like, is it going to be something else? How is that going
Right.
to affect the sequel trilogy? That's where my interest is, personally.
So just real quick,
Yeah.
Diana has a bunch of comments here. She said not to get too far into it, but Cara Dune was what made her interested in The Mandalorian. And I agree. I really liked her character. Even
Right.
in season 2, when she broke up the Walrus Men, they were like the Walrus Men. You know, I forget what their race is called, but
The
the original
Walrus
action
Man.
in 1977, the original action figure was called Walrus Man because he had those
Oh.
fangs.
Oh, I know who you're talking about.
So they were in the old armor place, and
That's right.
and she stopped the fight. By the way, one of my favorite fights in that whole entire show, season 1 and 2, is the armor versus stormtroopers. Love it, love it, love it. I love.
Yeah, that was awesome.
I love strong female characters for Hadley to look up to. Outside the original trilogy, the Legends territory, Star Wars, the Everyman. What I want to say about something you just said. So season 3 of The Mandalorian, so you get the Book of Boba Fett. I guarantee you, Din Djarin's he's gonna show up in it for sure. The way I picture it is that he's gonna walk down the steps of Jabba's palace, and you're gonna focus on his boots. And when his boot steps on the step, you can hear the Mandalorian. You can hear the music, and he'll be there. I don't know doing what. And then Grogu, everyone's like, Grogu's gonna get slaughtered by Ben Solo and all that.
No, he's not.
So first of all, here's the thing about Grogu. He's again looking at Kathleen Kennedy and as a business, he's a ginormous cash cow. He's a ginormous cash cow, and you're not going to have your cash cow go off with Luke Skywalker to train and never be seen. So I think, yeah, exactly. And here's the thing: they say that they chose not to do merchandising season 1 because they wanted to keep it a secret. I think that's somewhat not true, but
Really?
because they missed the boat with Baby Groot. When Baby Groot in Guardians of the Galaxy, they should have merchandised that to no end, and they didn't. But whatever. So season 2, there was Grogu stuff everywhere. Also, Grogu brings in the casual fan. I think Grogu brings in people who's like, oh, that's adorable. I don't even know what's going on, but that's the cutest thing ever. And so I just can't imagine that he's gone.
No, he's not. Like, I mean, personally, I was surprised that a lot of fans were confused as to why he left and honestly thought it was a permanent change. Like, the whole point of a story is to tug on your heartstrings, like a good story.
Yeah.
And that's why characters get killed off, because it's sort of like, no, they didn't deserve to die. And, you know, they had one day left till retirement or something. I don't know. And there's that sort of like irony or like that longing that you have. And I feel like if season 2 had just ended like, all right, cool, we defeated the bad guy, and now, you know, whatever, you know, it wouldn't have been as interesting. There needed to be something at the end of season 2 where you were just like, oh my god. And yes, we had the Luke Skywalker cameo. Yes, you know, Din got the Darksaber. All of those were like, you know, jaw-dropping moments. But they didn't, to me, like they were still secondary to Grogu and Din saying goodbye. That was the heart of like the whole story, and that was everything. Like it was everything that's from like the end of season 1, episode 1. That was everything we were building towards. He's helping Grogu find his real family, and ultimately he did that. And
but I always pictured it going on forever. Like I pictured maybe Luke Skywalker in the series finale, season 7. Luke shows up, and that's how it would have ended. But
sure, but yeah, I mean, I think to me it's honestly pretty obvious that Grogu is going to come back for whatever reason. He's not going to stay with the Jedi Order. And you know, one, because he has to survive. He can't get killed off, you know, during the second Jedi extinction. And also, like, yeah, I mean, how can he not be in the show? Like, you know, I think he might be gone for like maybe season 3. Maybe not even that. Maybe he'll show up in the middle of season 3 or at the end of it, and then season 4 he'll be back for sure. At least that's what I'm predicting.
One of my favorite episodes in season 3, which I think might take both of our had some fan service but also had an original character, was, and I'm not a big Bill Burr fan, but I became a big Mays Mayfeld fan, is when they had to get the location of the cruiser, and you know, didn't and they had a drink with that officer.
Yeah,
and that scene I think is so epically well done. And I never saw Inglorious Bastards, but it's my understanding it's almost like a copy, a carbon copy, or a tribute to a scene in that movie.
Right.
But damn, that's a damn good scene, and I love when Mayfeld shoots the officer, and everything just goes quiet, and you have that trooper with his lunch, and they just look at each other like, "What just happened?" And then he shoots him, and then I still wasn't trusting Mayfeld, and I still might not, but I just love where he gives Mando his helmet, and it's like, "Here, you had to do what you had to do. I never saw your face," and but I also love their conversation in the truck because he's like, "So what's the deal? You can't take your helmet off, or you can't show your face, because those are two different things." And yeah,
Yeah,
and
exactly.
you had the seismic charges in that scene too.
That was cool.
Dude, I saw the ties on his tail, and I saw Boba Fett flipping switches, and I'm like, "Oh my god, it's happening!" And then he saw the, and I'm like, "It's a seismic charge! Oh my god, it's a seismic charge!"
I had
And yeah,
flashbacks to being in the theater for Attack of the Clones and thinking there was something wrong with the sound because I'm like, what just happened?
right.
I don't hear anything.
And it's so funny because I know Kevin Parker talks about this all the time. People hated the prequels, and I think Clone Wars, and I think Mandalorian, even that moment with the seismic charge, it has that nostalgia feel, right? Because
Right.
there's a meme going out today that Phantom Menace is now, like, today is more far away than the New Hope. There's
The New
something
Hope
I forget.
was
Yeah, I forget the
so
math.
fans from I think it was yesterday because I shared it yesterday. The Phantom Menace now came out longer ago than the time span from when the Phantom Menace came out back
Right,
to A New Hope, and it
right.
was like
So,
3,000 days or something. I can't remember.
so the
3,500
seismic
days.
charge to me was a nostalgic thing because it's like, oh my gosh, it's the seismic charge, and just
Right.
having the boom, it's like,
Yeah,
oh my god,
that
yeah,
Timothy Oliphant writing the pod racer, like those were all really cool.
yeah.
Kind
Oh,
of
I love that
flashbacks for
too.
me.
That was great too. Yeah, I love. So I do. Again, I said before, I'm a fan. I love the service, and it's great.
Yeah, and but like that, like you mentioning the prequels kind of brings me back to a few things, which is, like we live in a time now where people kind of remember the prequels really fondly and nostalgically, but as you and I have talked about, that wasn't always the case. When the prequels came out, most of when people were talking about the prequels, they were talking about how bad they were.
Mm-hmm.
About how they were too focused on politics and how Jar Jar was dumb and how they didn't like Anakin's acting, no matter which Anakin it was. How the writing was cheesy, the dialogue, and yes, those things are still true. But despite those things, people have learned to love them, and
Yep.
so I'm just like, for me, like I know, like we're all going to have opinions about the sequel trilogy. I mean, you and I just shared ours. Neither one of us think that they're the most amazing films in the universe, but we both appreciate them for what they did right, and ultimately they're entertaining. The same thing goes for the prequels, and I'm just like, that 10 years we spent between people hating the prequels to appreciating them and kind of apologizing to the actors and creators that they spent like the last 10 years bashing. Why can't we just skip forward immediately to that? Why can't we get to the
Well,
point where we're okay, I recognize that this movie is flawed, but I love it. There's things that I really enjoyed, and I can tell that someone put a lot of work into this. Like, I
mm-hmm.
wish we could get to that now. Like, I wish Jake Lloyd and Ahmad Best never had to go through what they went through. I wish
I
that Kelly
agree.
Marie Tran never had to go through what they went through, because none of them deserve that. And I
I
wish we hadn't gotten
agree.
to the point like
Shame on the
where
fandom. I mean, Jake Lloyd is messed up for life. By the
oh
way, I
yeah,
don't know if you know Eden Tano. She's awesome. She's on
yes
my
she
feed.
is.
She says
Oh my god,
hello, Obi Wan and
hello.
Anakin, and she said what you just said is very well put. I
Mhm.
agree. It's funny because you look at my kids, and the sequel trilogy is going to be their trilogy, right?
Mhm.
Um, like the original trilogy is my trilogy. I guess the prequel trilogy is your trilogy.
It is, yeah.
Um, and like even Return of the Jedi is not one of my favorites. But where am I going with this? Oh, so the sequel trilogy be my kids' trilogy, right? And
Sure.
there'll be another trilogy where they're in their 20s and 25, and they're gonna be like, that is just trash. Bring us Rey Skywalker. We need we need more Snoke. And that's just a Snoke ripoff, is what that is. and it's funny. And I've said this in the reason why I haven't done one in a long time, but growing up with Star Wars, the reason why I do that is because people have to understand is that we are getting so much Star Wars content on a regular basis. And when I was a kid, it was it wasn't even a New Hope at first. It was Star Wars.
Wars.
Then it became Empire Strikes Back, Return of the Jedi, and New Hope. The holiday
And
special,
nothing.
the Ewok special. Maybe I think there was a Droids cartoon, but it was nothing. And it was years before the prequels came out. And it was and now we have so many shows in the works. We have a bunch of movies in the works. We have all the Star Wars content, and you don't have to love everything, but don't bash it. And also, no offense, I love George, awesome dude. I bringing back George makes zero sense to me. One of the reasons, I mean, because again, I enjoyed the prequels, but I probably was a basher when it first came out as well, and I just think the one reason why Return of the Jedi is not one of my favorites. It's you can see him starting to slip a little. It's the first movie that has body function humor in there. You know, there's some burp jokes in there. And you know, George Lucas did Howard the Duck. He did. He's got a lot of bad movies under his belt, and I think he writes good characters. I think he writes good story outlines. I just don't think dialogue and directing is his thing. He has a lot of good vision, but people say bring back George Lucas. I'm like, why don't you rent Howard the Duck and then and then come talk to me, because I'm not bashing George because he's the maker, but I think he's not the answer.
Right. I mean, George Lucas at his best was George Lucas when other people were kind of intervening and being like, hey, why don't you try this instead? Like a lot of people credit his wife at the time, Marcia Lucas, for editing A New Hope, because before that, it was a snooze fest, according to the people who saw it. Empire Strikes Back, a lot of it...
George Lucas wanted 3PO and R2 in the desert for 45 minutes.
Yeah,
and they made a Clone Wars episode. They made a Clone Wars episode on that, but he wanted them in the desert for 45 minutes.
And he said that was his favorite Clone Wars episode. They asked him in an interview which was his favorite. He said it was the droids wandering the desert for like 3 episodes before they met Gregor or whoever. Yeah, so like, and then like thinking about Return of the Jedi was always one of my favorites as a kid. It's still one of my favorites. The Jabba scenes are way too long. Like they go on for like a really long time. Honestly, I think the droid scenes in The New Hope still go on too long. Like when I'm showing it to someone who's never seen Star Wars, they're bored. They're bored during like the first act.
It's always fun showing Star Wars to someone who may not, for the first time, and may not enjoy it as much as we do. And you see it from their point of view, and you're like, yeah, this does drag on a bit, huh?
Yeah. I guess I don't care who that crate dragon skeleton in the desert is.
Right.
That seems interesting to me.
Yeah. It is funny. I don't think it's authentic, but I have a rough draft script of Empire Strikes Back, and it's horrible. It's so bad. And you know, you need people to punch it up. And for some reason, you watch the making of the prequels, and everyone, I blame Rick McCallum on any failure of the prequels.
Always blame the Ricks.
I did, Rich McCallum, because he was such a yes man.
No,
he was such a yes man. Yes, sir. And George Lucas would tell a bad joke, and they would all laugh hysterically. And I'm like, guys, that's not funny. Like, why are you laughing? And no one said, George, this may be not the right way. And again, I love the prequels. I'm not bashing it. I'm just saying it may have gone in another direction.
Right.
George is not the answer.
Sure, exactly. Because what people are doing now is that they're so dissatisfied with, say, the sequels, that they're like clinging on to like it's another movie that they've learned to appreciate over the years, which honestly is just as imperfect in a lot of ways, which honestly are the prequels. And, you know, like seeing George as some sort of like deity or savior that like would have fixed everything, when that's not the case. Like, you know, like George gave Disney a treatment, is what they call it, basically a summary of what he wanted the sequel trilogy to be. And I mean, they read it and they didn't think it was a good idea. They took elements of that, to make the sequel trilogy, but there was a lot of stuff like he wanted the main characters to be really, really young. He wanted them to be like Jake Lloyd age. And Disney was like, we're not doing that again. That's not a good idea. People did not like that the first time. We're going to age them up. We're going to put them in their early 20s, which I think was a smart decision. Like, sure, there's a lot of things that they got wrong, but I think making the characters in their 20s, like the original trilogy characters, very smart.
Again, they stayed in their comfort zone, and I'm okay with it.
Right, exactly. And so, like, yeah, I think, say George Lucas had directed the sequel trilogy, I don't think people would have loved it a lot more than they'd love than now. Like, I feel like it would have been the prequel trilogy all over again, where people are like, "Here we go again, George and his crazy ideas," and it's still not a very good movie. It'll never be good as the original trilogy. It would have been different complaints. It wouldn't have been the same ones, but people still would have not been happy.
There's rumors that he wants to direct a movie or a trilogy.
Really?
I'm like, maybe give him a Mandalorian episode, see how that goes first. I don't know. It's like, I definitely don't want to say no. What's that?
I don't know if it's true that he really wants to direct. Like, maybe.
Probably not.
I mean, he's visited the set. He doesn't seem like he's all that happy to be there. He's just kind of like, hey, I'm just checking it out, and this will look good in the behind the scenes and all that. But like, well, I don't see him
George
like
Lucas never looks happy. I've never seen that man. He's just always like, well, what are you gonna do?
He looks happy in that one meme where he's like laughing like a maniac, and he's just like, you know which one I'm talking about? No. Yeah, I'll send it to you later. No, you're right. He never looks happy, but I've never heard, not that he does that many interviews or anything, but I've never heard an inkling of him wanting to go back. He basically said, like, I made the prequels. Those are the movies I wanted to make. People didn't really like them. I don't really feel too motivated to like make some more. I'm getting older. I want to make smaller movies. I want to make more, he said, independent and more experimental films. And I
films
don't
we'll
think
never see. He said,
right, he did say that. He said,
someone said, well, when can we see these? He's like, oh, you'll never see them.
Right.
It's so like Prince in his vault. Like Prince has a vault of all this unreleased music, and I think Lucas is going to have that same vault.
Sure. I think George does a lot of stuff behind the scenes, and he doesn't really take credit for it now. I think, I don't know, I could be wrong, because he lives a really private life. The last film that I really heard he had involvement in was Red Tails. And I haven't seen it. It seems really interesting, but I haven't watched it. But since then,
I saw a lot of scenes from it, but I don't think it got very good reviews. I like the subject matter, and I think I saw like one or two scenes from it, and I enjoyed it. But yeah,
right.
That I think is one of the last things he's done.
I think that there's just always rumors flying around, and especially with, again, people hating the sequel trilogy, people, wanting Kathleen Kennedy to be fired and all that. Like, people keep dreaming up these different things that they want. Like, George Lucas makes his triumphant return and, ousts Kathleen Kennedy and all that. That's not going to happen. And like just today I read someone was saying that George directed a scene in Solo, which is not true. He was there visiting the set for one scene and made one suggestion, which is Alden was going to hang Lando's cape back up before he kissed Kira. And George was like, why don't you just have him throw it on the ground? Like, that's more of a Han thing. And that was the one thing he directed. So I don't know. I don't really buy it, but I could be wrong.
It's funny. I was watching Solo the other day, and same along the lines where I say I think it was a conscious choice to get rid of Kylo Ren's voice modulator for that one line, what girl? Yeah. In the Sabacc scene, when Alden approaches the table and he says, is this seat taken? I'm not saying it's Harrison Ford saying that line, but I think they tried very hard to make that line sound like Harrison Ford. That only one line. It's much different than Alden's voice. And he's just like, is this seat taken? It just sounds like a 1977 Harrison Ford. I don't know if it's Alden saying it. I don't know if it's just my imagination or if it's a impressionist, but it's definitely different than any other line that he says in that movie. And it sounds very similar to Harrison Ford. And I think they kind of do that on purpose. I like Solo. I think it's another great movie. The writing is just, and that's done by the
Lawrence Kasdan.
It's written by Kasdan, and if anyone knows Han Solo, it's him. And the writing in that movie is just great. I just love the writing.
I don't understand. I really don't understand people disliking that one, to be honest. But I mean, at the end of the day, everyone's going to have their own opinion, and I don't care like what opinions people have because no one's ever going to agree with me anyway. But what I do feel is like we need to enjoy the things we enjoy and kind of let go of the things we need to let go. Like there's, like saying I didn't like this movie is fine. Going on like, Instagram and commenting on every single Lucasfilm or Star Wars picture that they post and saying how much you hated Ray or how much you
trash or
hated.
whatever, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's just not healthy. Like it's not healthy for
Like-
anyone. It's not healthy for the people commenting. It's not healthy for the people reading it.
I don't
It doesn't help.
the Twilight movies, and I certainly don't go on someone's page on purpose and say that movie was trash. I just
Yeah.
hit next.
Right.
Or if someone's my friends with, I'll like it and say, "Oh, you're great." But I don't feel like that movie was trash. What a waste of time. I'll never get my life back. Fire everyone involved in that. No, I think the writing in Solo is just great. Just Han, I think it's time we rethought our alliance. How so? Well, we should go after Beckett. That's a great idea. You go first. The writing and this whole Sabacc written scene is just, I think you need to quit while you're ahead. I think you need to quit while you're behind. I like this kid. Like, it's just so well done. I actually saw an interview with someone. I think I posted it to you and Jasmine. Someone asked me if we'll ever see the other version that was like 90% done of Solo, the comedic directors. I forget their names.
Yeah.
But
I forgot too, but they did the Lego movie.
I didn't even know who was on the podcast or who even answered that. And the podcast took place a week after Justice League, the Snyder Cut.
Yeah.
And he said a week ago I would have said no way. It's like after Snyder Cut release, anything's possible, and I would be okay with it if they released it. Same thing. Right. Larissa's not here anymore, but if they released the other version of Rogue One, I would totally be into seeing it.
But like, I think the difference though is that maybe there's not a difference, but like, I feel like the Snyder Cut, the Whedon Cut and the Snyder Cut are more different than the different versions of Rogue One or Solo. I don't know. Well, I could be wrong about that. I feel like a lot of stuff was reworked. My understanding was that Rogue One, the third act was reworked a lot, but the rest of the movie is pretty similar to, what was originally filmed. And then for Solo, I thought it was less. I'm not basing this off of anything. I just always understood it wasn't 90%, that it was like a lot less than that when they replaced the directors. But I don't know. I have no idea.
But I heard it was more comedy and definitely not the direction they wanted to go to. And there's some scenes where L3, which I thought was kind of weird, but when L3 is cutting the gate to get to the Millennium Falcon,
right?
I forget who plays Kira, the actress.
Oh, Emilia Clarke.
Yeah, her and Woody Harrelson have this really like almost horrified look on their face, and I have a feeling that might have been somewhat different. And there's a couple other scenes that they have reactions that I think might have been not what
was originally intended. Yeah, I'm really curious about that. But like, I think a big reason why the Snyder Cut happened was because the Whedon Cut was so bad. Like,
it was.
You've seen that version, right?
I did, and
yeah.
I just couldn't bring myself to watch the Snyder Cut.
Yeah,
I was on a 5-hour flight, and I'm like, "This is it. If you're gonna have a chance to watch it, you're trapped." And I watched Endgame.
Right, I remember.
I couldn't bring myself to do it. I'm like, I hear I'm like, there's so much slow motion in it. I just.
No, I hear you. But if you do watch the two, like you'll see that like it is an improvement. Like it's certainly not a perfect movie, and you have to be a fan to really enjoy it. But like it is a much better movie than the Whedon Cut. Whereas I feel like Rogue One and Solo are already good movies. They already work really well. Like they don't need to be improved. And I think like if they release the new cut's not going to be better. I think it was recut for a reason, and that was because something wasn't working. And I feel like that would be pointless for them to release a new version of it. Like the only reason that I feel like they would release it is one, if there was a huge fan demand, which there's not, and two, if like they legitimately felt that this would somehow improve the film or the saga overall, and it really doesn't. It would just honestly be kind of confusing to have two versions of the same film. I don't know.
I don't know. I actually think they're both well done. I think Rogue One, I think the Borg Gullet and Saw Gerrera stuff is a little wonky, and Solo. Honestly, I love it. If I had to change anything, I'm trying to think what I would, and I'm not sure if I would change much of anything.
Yeah, I'm trying to think what. Yeah, no, I think it's really good.
It's well done. I'll never understand the hate to that movie.
Oh, I know what I'd change. I know exactly what I would change. The Wookiees, they look really creepy.
They do.
They have no hair on their face, and I'm just like, why? Chewie has hair on his face. They look like Bigfoot.
They did look a little goofy. Because even Tarfor, is that his name in Revenge of the Sith?
Yeah.
And all those Wookiees looked like Wookiees. Like they looked like Wookiees, and the Wookiees in Solo did have a goofy look to it. But
it was Harry and the Hendersons.
Which I love that movie too. But I love John Lithgow. But I just learned that John Lithgow did the voice of a Star Wars character in the NPR Empire Strikes Back radio drama, and I forget who he played.
I don't remember either, but you're right, he did.
Yeah, but
yep.
But yeah, there's not much I would change in Solo. I think it's great. Honestly, if I could change one thing in Solo, I would give it a sequel because it really needs it. It deserves one.
That, and I was really disappointed there was no C-3PO and R2-D2 cameo. I feel like there was a way they could have fit it in there. I feel like at this point, C-3PO and R2-D2 being in the what?
They should be in every movie at this point, kind of.
Yeah, they should be in every movie, and there should
like
always be. I have a bad feeling about this. So that's the only thing. That was my only gripe with Solo and with Last Jedi. Solo didn't have the droids. Last Jedi didn't actually have. I have a bad feeling about this. Technically, it was in there because BB-8 said it, but that doesn't count to me.
I'll let that one slide. The Last Jedi that BB-8 said it, I think is just not true. I think that was like, BB-8 said it. The way I would have written that line is BB-8 say something and Poe says, "Happy beeps, buddy, happy beeps," and then Leia could have said, "I'm with the droid in this one. I have a bad feeling too." Like you needed to translate it a little more, and I don't know that anyone caught that. No, I certainly didn't know that he said, "I have a bad feeling about this." But anyways, I should probably reintegrate with the family. This was fun, and we almost do have like kind of like a podcast vibe going on. But I like this in a way because the podcast, this isn't a commitment to anything. We just do it once in a while when you're just like, "Hey, are you free?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I'm free." I'm not saying I would be opposed to a podcast, as long as it wasn't like an ongoing commitment that, like we have to spend a ton of time on. I think this is great. If we just do stuff like this, I'm down. Yeah. Yep. I agree. So, all right, dude, have a good night and a good weekend, and I'll talk to you real soon. Obi-Wan, may the Force be with you. Goodbye, old friend. May the Force be with you. Bye. Bye, everyone.